This is Jack Donovan, author of The Way of Men, and you are listening to Start the World. I'm here today. Perhaps we should start with just a moment of silence because I'm here today with someone who is known around the world as Chad Jesus. And of course, I'm talking about Alexander Juan Antonio Cortes. He's a fitness trainer. He's been a fitness trainer for 10 years. He's on Twitter at AJA_Cortes with an S, not a Z. And he's very well known on there. He's on Instagram at AJA_Cortes. And, his stories are fantastic. He's one of the people I watch on Instagram because he's funny. And he gets all these brotarded questions and he answers them and has a lot of fun with guys. And today something that he said was be Chad or go extinct. And so I think let's start out with that because that's kind of new terminology for me. What does it mean to you to be Chad?
All right, that's a good question, Jack. So yeah, the Chad concept, I admit myself, probably a year ago, I had no idea what this was. It's one of those sort of like egregores that's come out in the digital ether, where this meme emerges, and it's this meme of the Chad, and the Chad is the sort of almost like mythical, Grecian Byronic hero, where he is the man that is 6'2", 6'5", whatever, and he is built and cut, and he has been an alpha his whole life, and every Stacy and Shirley and Chelsea opens her legs for Chad, and people love Chad, and he's the man where just him being him with no conscientious thought, he just moves the world. And it's all effortless, and he never had to study or learn or do anything how to be a man. He just exists. It's sort of like this almost like demigod-like being. He just exists as an entity. So I encountered this concept online a year ago because someone called me like, "Oh, you're like Chad Jesus." And I was like, "What?" I actually asked my following, "What's a Chad?" And I got back like 100 responses. And there's whole, things you don't know exist. There's whole forums on Reddit dedicated to like talking about like the lore of Chad. It's like you just go down the internet rabbit hole. So I found the concept hysterical. Then, some of our mutual friends, Anthony, he started calling me. He's like, "Well, you're Chad Jesus." So I was like, "Well, you know what? This is on a very basic level. This is phenomenal branding. So I'm just going to run with it." And, so that's become the thing the past year. And the go Chad or go extinct, I mean, on a certain level, it's serious where, okay, if you want to be a man where you want to pass on your genetics and you want to, dominate life and impress your bros and be alpha, well, how do you do that? You got to be Chad. Or you're genetic dead end. Extinction is your fate.
Right. So Chad is like a masculine ideal. Did it come from like a movie or something? Like, why Chad?
I'm honestly not figured that out. I've heard the same thing. It's like this one syllable name, Chad. Is it from like an 80s film with the stereotypical jock bully? Like, I don't know, actually. That's a completely irrelevant question, but it became a thing online. It's Chad. And then I think it came out like the sad virgin meme. Well, because the actual origin of it, I believe, is the Chad Thundercock versus the sad virgin.
Okay.
So it's just you'll see this online again. Like you go down, like I'm not on Reddit. This is all stuff, this crop stuff on Twitter, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
Yeah, it's all these. It's that twisted mimetic culture. But it's a juxtaposition where it shows Chad Thundercock, and it's this cartoon character, and he's this huge guy, and he's got like a crotch bulge, out to here, and he's got massive muscles and proud visage, and he's the Chad. All these Chad-like characteristics are attributed to Chad, and then he's juxtaposed with the sad virgin, who's small and weak and has bad posture. And you'll see this meme used in like every kind of context. Yeah. So I believe it came from that, and it spread like wildfire, in the internet underworld.
Right. So everybody's just trying to be more Chad. So I guess maybe let's start with some of your background and where you started out and how do you got what you're doing today.
Yes, I mean, so background wise, I my origin story is always, I find it not that interesting, I think, but then people are always like, really? So my original plan when I was in high school was I wanted to be a professional ballet dancer. Mm-hmm. So ballet, not ballet, ballet, So yeah, I want to be, yeah,
That'd be a whole different thing.
You say it too fast. People are like belly dancing. I'm like, no, ballet, but ballet. So I want to be a professional ballet dancer. And I was one of those guys where I was always kind of like, what's the term? Like a Sigma male. I like to be by myself.
Mhm.
I was not the kind of young man where I want to be in a sports team, or like I didn't like having people around me, honestly.
Right.
I just like being alone. The vast majority of the time. That's my personality.
Mhm.
So, competitive athletic sports didn't really appeal to me. It always seemed like a sort of bread and circus kind of thing where you kind of see through the veil of it that way, or like you can't get into it so much. You appreciate it, but it's just not, again, it's not you.
Yeah.
So I did martial arts when I was younger, probably about like from like 8 to like 13-ish. And then I encountered ballet, very randomly in high school because I was watching these girls dance, and it was a very random situation. I got called into this dance studio. Teacher came out, asked, can someone come in, like help us mark something? And I looked in the room. There's a bunch of girls, and like you're 15, so if you're a hetero guy, it's like oh girls, yeah, sure, yeah, you say yes.
Yeah.
I walked in, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's just like there's tons of hot girls in this room. I'm like, I'm gonna hang out here, okay. And then the teacher asked, like, well, can you dance? And I actually could. I was always one of those kids where like I knew I could dance. I liked to dance, even as a little kid.
Yeah.
Some kids are like that. So like, yeah, I think I can dance. I got rhythm, whatever. So she's like, okay. So it was like it was a swing dance number.
Okay.
So that was the first thing I ever did that was like a dance, performance. And I had fun doing it, so I decided to make that my thing. And I mean, it definitely gave me a huge amount of insight into women that I think most men never get, since I was, basically from the age of 16 up until 21 when I graduated college. I was around women all the time. It's like in that formative years when they're, crazy and emotions and hormones, all those things are running. So like you see this side of female behavior that just most men are never going to see.
Right.
So it was definitely like a very sort of like red pilling experience. By the time I was 21, I didn't have any like delusions about like how women are, or sort of like the Disney Prince fantasy stuff. I realized a lot of men get caught up in blue pill, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that was the plan. I wanted to be a professional ballet dancer. I loved performing. I have always been sort of a philosophy aesthetics fiend. I worship aesthetics. Like, I mean, I could go on a whole tangent about the role of aesthetics and appearance and how we present ourselves and the alignment with truth. But anyway, so ballet was kind of my way of expressing that. And then it didn't work out. I got injured really badly when I was training, ruptured a hamstring tendon, tore that off. I broke foot. So foot was broken, hamstring tendon was torn. And I got into, lifting weights and training as sort of like a way to rehab. And then I arrived at personal training when I was around like 20 because I didn't know what the hell else to do. I was self-aware enough to know that, my liberal arts degree, basically dance performance choreography, is worthless. There's no job market for this. I spent a bunch of money, got a bunch of student debt. I don't know what the fuck to do. I have no marketable job skills. I know I can't work in an office. My actual personality is pretty irascible. I don't work well with others. I'm like, so what avenue is there? I'm like, well, I've always been kind of a bro. I've been lifting weights since I was 15, 16. And why did I start lifting? A girl told me I was skinny. Very, classic origin story. Girl told me I was skinny. I was like, fuck this. I'm going to go lift. Got a gym membership, started lifting, very conventional. So I was 20. I'm like, I don't know what the hell else to do. I know I'm good at teaching. I know I like to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy describing things. I always had that aptitude for demonstration that way. I'm like, I think personal training, I'm like, that can work. And it was the only job I could think of as well that paid more than minimum wage. I mean, that was the real factor at the end of the day. I'm like, personal training, you'd start out like $15 an hour, and minimum wage was 10 in California. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I need to make money somehow. So, okay, let's do this. And I never planned on doing it for a decade. I'll tell you that. I've probably wanted to quit literally every year for the last 10 years. Like somehow be like, fuck this, I'm sick of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept persisting at it, since once you get to that 3, 4, 5 year mark of doing something, you're usually good enough that to quit at that point, you're like, well, I'm pretty good. Maybe I could actually almost become great.
Right.
So I kept doing it. And I had some sense, irrational faith, I believed it would turn into something. So I did that for all my 20s. I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in Florida, kind of went back and forth between different places. Very typical sort of, again, like male experiences. I had a bunch of girlfriends, dated, saw the changes in sort of like the sexual marketplace, like watching men and women date, being, a you date a huge spectrum of chicks when you're in Los Angeles. If you're a guy where you date a lot of women, obviously you're with a lot of women. So, I saw things change, and it was right around like 2013, 2014, where I'm like, something's, I felt like had gone wrong in society
Mhm.
in regards to this, like this sort of the overall, biopsychosocial energy. So I started writing about masculinity, and I was like 23, 24. So it wasn't like from a place of, perspective truly. It was just like things I thought and I was feeling.
Right.
And then I was always into evolutionary biology. So you read that, you kind of, it's all syncretic. You pull from these influences. And I remembered that my first article was like, I think like 2013, 14. It was about sort of like what I saw sort of like the two fundamental principles of being a man,
Right.
which is you have to be able to provide for yourself,
Mhm.
and you have to be able to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that comes with a sense of independence, and that comes with a sense of like this sheer physicality.
Mhm.
On a very basic biological level, men have to be strong, because if you're not strong, you die. That's just, you can't argue with that.
Right.
And I think that was kind of when I discovered your books, actually. I think, the first book, The Way of Men. And that was like a big crystallization moment of like, oh, wow, these obviously you're older than me. I'm like, this guy, like, those things, it pulls everything together. I'm like, yeah, he gets it. Like, yeah, this is what's lacking.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the way of men. This is how men are. Yeah. And then from there, it was just kind of this odd sort of, journey into being discovered by the Manosphere in 2017, 2016, which I didn't know what that was. I was never a game guy. I wasn't reading PUA stuff or Red Pill or on forums. Just people started finding me like, oh, you're like one of the Manosphere guys. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And
Right.
but then you start encountering all these things. I realized I wasn't the only person having these ideas that society and femininity, masculinity were out of order. So and then from there it's just grown and evolved. But like I've said before many times, like I never expected to be in this position. Being a leader of men was not my intention. If you ask me personally, I think I'm a very bad leader. I'm like, I don't pretend to be one. Like, I'm not the guy that's gonna, like, let's get a whole army together and like, yes, you all are my brothers in charges, and I'm gonna lead you in the battle. I'm gonna take care of all of you. I'm like, I just want to be left alone. Yeah,
that's a really hard job. That's a whole different job.
Yeah, I don't pretend to be that. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm like, I wanted to just perform and be around hot women. Like, honestly, like very superficial sexual motivation, but that's what it was. And just enjoy my life. But as it's happened, I've become this sort of public internet figure, whatever the fuck that means,
Right.
with internet fame. So I just sort of ride the wave now, and I try to maintain that self-awareness. I'm like, you kind of have to treat it like you're a parody of yourself almost. Yeah. Like, if you're going to become an internet legend, like, there's an element of persona to it. Like, there just is. It's like pro wrestling.
Well, I mean, that's always the way it is. I mean, what Robert De Niro plays Robert De Niro in every movie that he's in, really. And anything iconic, if you become a people will expect certain things from you. And you can step into that, and you can slowly change it. I mean, I've changed my thing over the years, but you have to learn what people want from you a little bit, but also
yes, that's your
but
point.
also serve yourself. Because otherwise you get bored, and then it's just cynical. Like, here, let me put on my fake voice and my fake face and go out and then go do something totally different at home. But there's people like that. Well, I mean, I don't know, and I don't want to talk shit, because I would still love to meet him and be like whatever, interact with him. But like Alex Jones, they said that like there was a break. It's like he had to go to court, and he's like, "What? I'm just a character. I'm totally normal." And then it's Alex Jones on the internet. But who knows? Which is true. But I don't know. It's interesting, but
no, I mean, I know I have some of my personal friends are like personal friends with Alex Jones, but it's just like we live in like an interesting time where when you're online, or just like when you're interacting with that media sort of apparatus organism, I mean, you can be authentic. Like, obviously, I think most people try to be authentic, and some people very are, just they're very real. But then at the same time, if you are playing into all those mimetic games, like, you have to be like sort of a higher form of yourself. You kind of, it's almost like Dragon Ball Z. I never watched the show, but you keep leveling up. It's like, oh, I'm in my final form. Oh no, there's another form after that form.
It's definitely a video game. It's 100. Instagram is a video game.
It's a video game. But then, like, once the battle's over, you go back to what your regular form is, which is some approximation of that.
Right. I mean, I've always thought, actually, like, for something like Instagram, one thing I've found interesting about it was that it actually forced me to go do things that maybe I wouldn't do. Like, oh, I haven't posted this something like this I better go do some shit. You know, I can't just sit around and like, you know, whatever, sit on my computer all day, because that's probably what I would be doing. And like, oh, it's been a while since I went hiking. I guess I should go, you know, like just stuff that they expect from you. And go out and do things. And it also gives me a reason now, because it's my business, like, I can write off a vacation. You know, because that's as self-promotion, I can write off vacation and go to some place I really want to go to. And it's actually, I'm doing something good and making content that people like. So that's pretty cool.
Well, I remember you and I had that conversation, I think last year at the 21Con, where I was commenting and like, you know, I was like, man, like I was looking at your Instagram, like, man, your aesthetics for Instagram are just amazing. Like you look so cool, right? Like in every, like it's like in every picture, I'm like, this guy's fit and he's having ceremonies and he's here and he's at this mountainside. And he's, you know, like, you know, it's like everything, you know, there's an obvious aesthetic art to it.
Sure.
And then I remember taking that and I applied that to my Instagram, honestly, because like I realized, like, you know what, like, yeah, people, they want to see that and it gives them a sense of your character, you know, but at the same time, like it's actually very similarly. It got me out of the house doing stuff, because even today I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go hike in this beautiful scenic area that's close to where I live, which I might not ordinarily do, but I want to be in the sun. I'll be able to take some good pictures.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good for me. It's good for them. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's people always talk about it like it's this horrible thing and so fake and whatever. And you know, it's like I said, being in the public eye in some way or other sometimes just makes you work harder. You know, it makes you level up. I mean, because you're being watched. It's like I live in this really small town and right now, and going to the gym is just soul crushing. Because like I feel like a superhero, and I actually don't want to. I want to walk into the gym and have 5 dudes who just make me feel like the worst pussy in the world, and like over in the corner, so I have to try hard and whatever. And instead, it's like I walked in the other day. It was totally empty gym, and some people like that. I don't. I want a vibe of some kind. Mm-hmm. And then 2 85-year-old women walk in, because it's a really the median age of this town is really old, and like 2 85-year-old women, and then another like old person, and I'm like, I have my headphones off and I'm trying to get psyched to deadlift, and they're talking about death, and as old people do, right? They're talking about surgeries and recovery and death, and I'm like, oh God, and then sure enough, the old lady comes over and talks to me. I think her name is Tony, and she's 80. And if she lives 7 more years, she's going to, I mean, that just kind of environment, you know, doesn't push you, you know, like that at all. No. You have to really push yourself, because I'm like a superhero there, you know, like amazing. But, you know, it's like I'm deadlifting like 435. It's not even anything.
Yeah. Nothing is even remotely heavy.
Yeah,
I had a few years where I worked for LeFTS, which is all power. So Chris Duffin, I know he's like a mutual of ours.
They're all
powerlifters.
Yeah,
LeFTS, it's all powerlifters. So I remember the first time going to that gym, and I mean, I don't pretend to be a big, strong guy. You know, like I'm over 6 feet tall, but I don't have strength genetics. But you go to that gym, everyone's there. You're all going to work out together, and you routinely, you'll see guys benching 500 pounds. Like it's just like most of them can, at least 400. You'll see dudes 800-pound deadlifts all the time. That 1,000-pound squats, and even the women, you know, some of the female lifters they have, they're all pulling around 4 plates or close to it. So you go there and you're in that environment, and it's just it drips testosterone. And everyone's juiced out of their mind, and everyone probably took an Anadrol before you're lifting, right. And just veins popping. And you see these guys are just like, holy shit. Yeah. They're just juggernauts.
Right.
And then you're looking at whatever your weight you're lifting, and just, I mean, I miss that environment. I wish there were, very similar. I live in a small town. There's no gym like here around that. But when you go to a place like that, where it's, whether you're competitive or you're not, but you just see all this human potential. It's so far out there. That's, one of those, outliers. You're like, you look at your weights, you're like, you know what? I can do 10 more pounds, 5 more pounds, 20 more pounds. I'm gonna put a quarter on, screw the little weight jumps. And it absolutely makes you stronger, better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think people discount that, like people have their home gyms and so forth. And so that works for some people, and some people just stay motivated. For me personally, I'm like, yeah, I want to see those people lifting more weight than me and maybe feel garbagey. And that's actually one of the things that I think is really motivating. People always say, like, oh, social media, it's not real life. They're not real, whatever real means. I guess real means sitting around in your fucking pajamas and watching Netflix or whatever. But like, no one needs to see that. Uh, but I mean, I follow people who literally, I just was flipping through my Instagram. There's a handful of dudes that I follow. I'm like, well, that's why his biceps are bigger than yours, because he's working out right now and you're not. And it reminds me, I'm like, well, I guess I should be working harder, shouldn't I? And I think for a lot of people, they follow people just because they make them feel bad in that same way. They make them feel bad, but in a way that they need to feel bad.
Your relationship with social media, I think for anyone, it's their relationship with themselves.
Yeah.
So you know those people where you can look at someone that's bigger, stronger, better than you, and you're like, yeah, that's inspiring. There's a level of myself that I clearly have not reached. Or you can look at that and be like, well, I feel bad about myself, and that makes me feel more bad. Yeah, it's always, people are always paradoxical with behavior, since I've seen this before, like on Facebook or on Instagram, but it's every platform. If you post, if you post real life depressing stuff, then people will tell you that you're being negative, and why would you share this, and no one wants to see this, and maybe I start following you, now I'm not going to follow you, or you'll develop sort of like a loser following, a loser think following, where everyone that watches your stuff, it's all like a negative conversation.
Yeah.
So you do that. So if you share negative stuff, you get criticized. But then if you go the positive route, and it's like, oh well, this isn't really you, this is fake, this is bullshit. Yeah, and then if you try and find the median route, then you get criticized for like, oh well, I want to see more of this, I want to see more of that. So yeah, I mean, the way I tell people now, I'm like, share whatever the hell you want. Like, you're going to get some level of criticism regardless. It doesn't matter what it is, at all. So you can, it's going to, how you use it, and whether it's a tool for you that helps you or hurts you. Like that, this goes back to your internal sense of self, your internal validation versus external validation. What's your psychology like? I mean, it can make it worse, it can make it better. That's on you.
Absolutely. And that's a good way to think about it as well, because people want to blame it for everything, but you have to take responsibility for yourself and how you use it. But so right now you're training people. Do you train people in person anymore, or just mostly through online programming?
Mostly through online programming. I mean, I'll say right now, it's been a few months since I trained someone in person. I still have people that will like even fly into where I'm at.
Right.
And they'll want to like get like a couple hours in session wise. And I'm always willing to do that. But yeah, the majority of what I do now, it's all online, and it's mainly just information products. I spent the first, from like about 20 to 28, I trained clients every day from 6 a.m. to like 9 o'clock at night. It was I did that all day schedule. After 7 or 8 years, I got very good at it. But like anything else, I realized like, okay, this doesn't scale. Right. If you want, that whole thing about scaling. But it's like, it's true. It's like, this doesn't scale. I'm not going to get rich doing this. I'd like to have more personal freedom to do some things I like to do. I always want to travel. I want to learn some more languages, or become, bilingual, polylingual. So I'm like, okay, like how can I, achieve that? And I'd watched other people and worked for other people who had internet businesses, who were bodybuilders, personal trainers. John Meadows was the main guy I worked for 2 years. IFBB Pro, and he's very big now online. I realized, I sort of tapped into the bro market. I'm like, what are guys really looking for to get online? They're looking for, information. They want to get big, strong. I'm like, most guys, when they start out, they just want a routine. That's the thing you look for. Because I remember when I was 15, 16, maybe yourself, you remember, that's what every guy does. You open up the magazine and you don't really read the article, probably. You just look at what the fucking workout is. You're like, all right, I'm going to do this, it's a 2-hour arm workout, back, chest, shoulders, you explode your, like whatever the hell. It's always hyperbole. And motion laden. There's some bodybuild. I remember the Jay Cutler ads, which were fucking hysterical, for like Cell Tech creatine. It'd be like Jay Cutler, he's 280 pounds, right?
Right.
It's just dude's like as wide as a fucking brick shit house.
Yeah.
And he's got like 3 women around him. And then the ad's like, women only want you if you're big and ripped. And I'm like, oh man. And you're like, I'm like 16. I'm like, I gotta be big and ripped. Shit, like I want to get girls like that. So it's like I need cell tech, but along the cell tech, I need to do this 3.5-hour shoulder routine. Definitely, it's 14 exercises. So it's true. Every guy's done it at some point. You look at some huge bro, you're like, oh fuck. It's like, what does he do? You're like, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
So, and you go to the gym and maybe it works. Maybe it actually works really well. And I thought about that like 3 years ago. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna just make information products that are training programs, and I'm gonna make them really detailed and very precise and actually pretty informative. And I'm going to make that like my market, because you can always sell those for forever. It's unlimited. There's no limit to how many you can sell.
Right.
And, lo and behold, that business model actually worked out really, really, really well. I sell thousands of programs a month. And it gave me financial freedom, got me internet fame, I guess. It allowed me to, pursue a lot of interests. I've been able to move. I'm going to Egypt in like 2 weeks to live there for a little bit, because I've always wanted to see Egypt.
Nice.
So, it's been great. But I mean, the basic business model, like I said, it's training programs. It's teaching guys how to lift. And then it's a big smattering of bro philosophy, thrown into it. So it kind of I was able to pull all my interests together with it.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, people might look at that in a certain way, but I still look for that every once in a while. I mean, I've been training for years, and I've gotten the results I deserve, I would say, and it's good and bad, like I could train better and get better results, but I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with what I do. But sometimes you need to switch it up, and you need something else, and you just want, give me a new routine, give me a new thing from somewhere else, I mean, because I'm gonna probably do the stuff that I like, but every once in a while, like this 1 hour bicep routine that's great, which I wouldn't normally do, but you need to throw something like that in there after once in a while. So it's always good to have a new program and something like that floating out there. I think everybody needs something like that, and especially for guys who get out of it. I feel like a terrible human being if I don't go to the gym for at least like, a week, like that's really unusual for me. But a lot of people, life will happen, and they'll end up not. That's what they'll say. Life happened, and they'll get out of it, and they won't go to the gym for like 6 months. And so yeah, it's like getting a new routine like that. Like, I'm going to get my shit together. I'm going to buy this routine. I'm going to start it, and it could be great for them and get them back on the path. So.
Absolutely, and that's a big. My audience, the guys, the people that buy the programs. And I know this is from being a personal trainer. There's like, well, maybe 3 types of people. There's people like, I'd say like ourselves, where there's some men, and I've told all my clients this, if you have a very strong sense of physical identity, especially if you're someone where you're very keenly perceptive of the effect you have on others, how you show up to people, like you have that sort of like will to power that way with your body and your presentation, you're never going to not train yourself. Like you'll do that your whole life. It's part of who you are. It's an integral aspect of your identity. You can't get rid of it. Like, to have that taken away from you, you would no longer be yourself. And then you have people that waver, on the fence. They go in and out, and it's not a priority for them, but it's still important in some regard. And then you have the people where, for them to ever become that way, it would take like a radical re-altering, reprogramming, defragging, and reconstruction of their whole life. But the program aspect, like for all levels, yeah, like a program, or even if it's just like a single exercise workout where it's something where it strikes like sort of your instinct at the time, or I mean, like that. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things I've shared with people, like train your posterior delts. At the end of your shoulder day, whatever the hell. In the reverse, chest fly, whatever, or grab the dumbbells and just hit like 2 higher up sets, and even something that small, you're like, oh wow, guys will try it. Wow, that works really well. Oh, my shoulders actually do look awesome. It's a great tip. Goes in the toolbox. Oh yeah, like the repertoire of like, oh cool man, like thanks for teaching me that. I mean, and every bro is kind of like that. And then and also for the other people, like maybe it helps restore their shoulder health, or it helps them rehab from injury. So it's functional and useful on multiple levels.
Yeah, I think we both follow the guy who I get that stuff from is Paul Carter. Like I'll follow him, and I think you follow him as well.
Oh yeah.
But I had him on a podcast, like early version of my podcast. I think maybe I'll try and have him on again someday. But yeah, I mean, he'll throw something out there. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm going to start doing that. And it actually works, it's definitely, and then it becomes part of the routine. I mean, I think I'm actually going to record it because people always want to know about my shoulders. So I think I'm going to do some kind of shoulder routine on, and
you should.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do something like that. It just, throw it out there. I think my buddy Ethan, I think we're going to record it together. But because he's a personal trainer, so he can kind of do the tips, and I'll just stand there and do the reps or whatever. But so speaking of philosophy and bro, you said earlier that you're working on a project called the Tao of Bro.
Yeah. So the Tao of Bro. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I always just, again, try and be self-aware. I'm like, there are certain subjects I can go very in depth on, and I can totally geek out on things that would sometimes surprise people. Like, like, why would you study even know about that? I'm like, always, neuropsychology, biosocial psychology, like all of these different things that sort of fall to the realm of fitness, but are not considered mainstream. But anyways, I mean, point being though, like from a very young age, even before I really got into lifting, I was one of those young kids where I very much like lived in my head, and I mean, like I was a thinker that way, and I always loved reading this philosophy. From the first time I got exposed to it, and I was like, I think 10, 11. I had a teacher that got me onto like reading Aristotle. Okay. Aristotle, it was like Aristotle and ethics. So I started reading that stuff, and then once you read like one Greek philosopher, you somehow have to read the other ones. There's this sort of like natural progression of like, oh, you read Aristotle? Well, and you gotta read Socrates and Plato. I mean, how could you not? And it's like, well, who were there? And it's, oh, then you gotta go look up Xenophon. Oh, and then somehow you end up like wandering over Stoic philosophy, and like Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. And then what about Cicero? So then you gotta read Cicero. Well, you haven't read Seneca yet. How could you not read Seneca? So then you read Seneca, and like, oh yeah, there's actually some Arab. What about the Arab guys like Islam, Tawala, whatever the fuck? You're like, oh, they actually influence that area. So you end up just go like running through all this shit. And there's Neoplatonism, and so then like, oh, who are the Neoplatonics? And then it takes you sort of like in Romanticism, and then like Germanic philosophy, and and then it's like then like maybe you read Byron, like the Byronic hero, then oh, okay, there's the Romanticism era. Well, what about the one that came before that? I mean, you can just keep going with this shit for forever, obviously.
As you should.
Like there's,
really?
Yeah, as you should. Like there's all these ways. So so like over the course of my, from my 10 to 20 to 25, like I was just always running through these, all these like philosophical circles, and then you get to sort of like the 20th century eventually, and then you kind of get into like like modernism, postmodernism, structuralism. And then it does give you, I guess, if you're intelligent enough, it does give you a certain sense of like, how did we get here with modern society versus 100 years ago versus 200? So it gives you this very spectral view. You view things on a continuum. So like, that was kind of my background, like my personal stuff, that I was really into. But at the same time, like I was kind of just growing up in gyms, like all my formative years, really from like 16 till now, like. Who were the friends I met? They were in gyms. It was all bros. So I was always in a bro atmosphere. Bros lifting, bros eating together, knowing guys that juice, knowing guys that compete in powerlifting, bodybuilding. I've been in all these kinds of subcultures, and it's not always, these aren't always intellectual men, in the level of like, like obviously, being a bro can, in a certain sense, like, it can be really dumb. I mean,
it can go 100% in either direction.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about men. Like men, you can get a group of friends together, and somehow you're all smarter, and you're faster, and you're better. But men also can just be absolute idiots with each other. But there's a certain joy to that of like guys just being fucking dumb, especially when you're like 18 to 25, and your brain's still forming. Let's just do stupid shit together.
Right.
Yeah. So you start fights, and you burn shit down, and you end up you end up having to knock somebody out, or like you're fucking throwing fists over bullshit, and then there's chicks around. Maybe you're living in like in a shithole apartment like I was. There's like 4 dudes living there, and it's just like a fuck house, and like nothing's ever been cleaned ever. And like it's fun though, right? So this was how I came up in life, basically. This is my background.
Okay.
But anyway, so I get to 28, 29, 30. I'm retrospective, so I start kind of looking back, and I realized like, okay, like how did I get here? And maybe this is a natural thing of turning 30, since you're at that sort of like trying age of like it's 3 decades now. And I was thinking like, what could I really extract from like all these subcultures I've been a part of? And I'm always going to be a bro. And I realized on a very, I said this in an email I sent out a few days ago, a newsletter, but like I realized that on a very, pragmatic but transcendental level, that bro philosophy is actually very, it's not just functional, but it's very truth driven, and it requires a personality where you really have to align yourself with what works and what doesn't. You have to sort of align yourself with like the search for truth. And that might sound ridiculous, but for anyone that's ever been in that kind of culture gym where you're around bros, how do you assess anything? You assess it by outcome. Everything's applied knowledge. Mm-hmm. So like it's fun to theorize, but at the end of the day, you got stronger and the weight went up or it didn't. You're either bigger or you're not. You're either lean or you're fat. Like if you're getting cut, like it's gonna show up in the mirror. If you want to see if something works, well, how do you figure it out? Maybe you talk over with your guys. What do you think of this, that? You go try it. There's no other way to do anything. So your whole body of knowledge becomes applied knowledge. And I said this, also in the newsletter, where like bro philosophy, like epistemically, can just absolutely steamroll this railroad fucking most branches of philosophy. It'll just fucking destroy it. Is you can get in your head and you can talk about all these sort of like intellectual, it's like the French intellectualism where it's all these fucking like incredibly verbose phrasing for goddamn every concept, and just goes on and on. And it's like, all right, well, what is nature of reality and structure? Like it's like a, it's not Derrida. It's like Lacan, like so one of the guys I like is like Lacan. Uh-huh. So in Lacan, like he would be in France in like in 1980s doing these like 6-hour lectures, and he's like smoking a cigarette, walking around. He's like, could you bear the life that you live now if you knew you were not going to die? Could we bear life without death? And you're like, oh wow, like, fuck, could I bear life without death? Like, so I'd watch these lectures like on fucking YouTube. Okay, I'm like, like, you're like, oh fuck, man. Like, so you're thinking, and like you got that one friend you talk about the shit with, but then you go to the gym and you're there training your fucking abs and arms for Friday night to go out to basically just get hose, so you can bring some girl back. And you're gonna wake up the next day either like proud of yourself and like fuck some bitch, or you're just gonna wake up like, god damn it, like I have a hangover and I'm supposed to fucking train like that today. I feel like shit. And like, and so like this would be me like when I was younger. I'm like, and I always just had these moments. I'm like, what the fuck is my life about? Like, I'm doing this. So like I'm listening to this stuff. I'm reading these things, which I think are absolutely brilliant. And then, but my day-to-day existence is literally just trying to get jacked and tan and laid. but they're both bringing me joy. Like they're both bringing me like a sense of satisfaction, obviously, and also make money and not get kicked out of my apartment. Right. I'm sharing. So over time, like I'd like to say, like it got me out of my being bro, got me out of my head, and I came to appreciate that. You know what? There is sort of like I call it like a Tao of Bro, where it's not going to necessarily give you an intellectual. It's not for let's say to live a life that's so intellectually rewarding, but you can extract, as I said, like a lot of practical philosophy from it. That if you want to take sort of like the like the Stoic route of like, what is a good life? What does it mean to live a good life? Well, there's probably 4 basic areas. There's your relationship with yourself, which any bro could talk about, like your sense of self-confidence, and you have to believe in yourself, and you show up here, those weights are going to test all these things that we'll say to each other. It's all true. It's all true. There's a relationship with yourself. There's your relationship, with your fellow men, maybe your trading partners. Maybe it's the comparison game. Like, oh, there's always someone bigger and stronger than you, but you got to be the best you can be. Like little league coach level stuff. But again, it's true. So you have a relationship with yourself, your relationship with other men. You have your relationship with women, obviously, which whether men will admit or not, a lot of what men do is obviously for the sake of either trying to get women, keep women, attract women. Yeah, that's a part of life. Okay, so we have that aspect. Any guy's gone to the gym to get jacked and get female attention. We all learn that. And then you have your relationship with kind of the world at large. And again, like if you get big and muscular enough, people will look at you differently, react to you differently, speak to you differently, perceive you differently. So, like that's what I realized. The Tao of Bro, I'm like, you actually can probably, that's what I was like putting together. I'm like, you can actually look at this sort of like all this weird syncretic philosophy of like almost, like Western modernized, almost like Buddhism. And that's the other factor to it. Like a lot of guys are super dedicated to their body training strength that way. they live a very monk-like existence.
Oh yeah.
It's very simple. It's very routine. It's super structured. They know exactly what's important to them and exactly what's not. They're very congruent that way in their personality. And some guys are obviously, psychological, nutcases. But I mean, that goes for anything, right? You're always gonna have those guys
anything extreme, anything extreme. There's some crazy in there, and you just is it destructive crazy or productive crazy?
We don't know, but it makes for a great story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's some gold to be found there regardless.
That's why, I mean, that's the question of sanity, really. Like, what is sanity? Because I mean, all the really successful people are a little messed up. Like they're driven by something because they're a little. I mean, UFC fighters, most of them have had some kind of issue in childhood. Or grew up in a bad neighborhood, or I mean, it's probably not as much true anymore because there's money in it. But especially, I mean, like powerlifting, those guys, there's not even any money in it. They're just doing it, which is kind of pure in a weird way. But they're just doing it because it's therapy to them. In some cases, it's therapy. It makes them feel better. Like, this is the one thing I can really ratchet down on and control. I can control this part of my life. And so it kind of helps them balance out other things. And that's true with anything. Yeah, anything that people specialize in.
I mean, it's gotta be strong. Yeah, I was thinking, you may think of strongman too, but yeah, I mean, it's just sort of the nature of man, like to become, to really become anything. It's both a process of construction and self-destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be very hard to differerentiate. Like, well, is it more this one or that one? You're doing something that you want to become the best at, whether that's being world class or just for the sake of fulfilling your potential. But you're doing it with the full recognition that this will break you down and wreck you, and you will pay for it with pain and suffering and the loss. That sort of that loss of that state of being. You will ascend to it, and then it will be gone from you because of injuries or because your body breaks down, and you'll never have that again. And then, from that point on, like, but I used to be that way. It was still within me, so you live with that memory. I mean, that's I always found that incredibly fascinating. I mean, that was kind of one of the things I loved about ballet, honestly. I mean, I still have, my body was messed up for a very long time. And I knew when I was doing it, I'm like, this is really fucking me up. But I loved it too much, and like I wanted to hurt from it.
Right.
Like it's just that, and I don't see. I mean, that's one of those major differences between men versus women. Women won't do things because it puts them into pain. Yeah, it's not a female characteristic at all, obviously. Men will do things specifically because it makes them hurt, and they enjoy it, and they actually get power from that, and they'll want more of it.
Well, then you did something, right?
Yes.
I think I said to one of my buddies the other day, I'm like, oh, I have DOMs. I have DOMs today, and I feel fantastic. My chest is wrecked. It's hurt for 2 days. That means I tried hard. That actually means, because I'd go through a long phase where I'm just kind of going through the motions, whatever, because I have to go to the gym, but I'm not really super into it. And I'm like, I'm gonna try hard again for a while. And, and then you wake up and you like can't really stretch at all because your chest is so tight. And, it's like I'm like, that's perfect. That's where I want to be. That's where I want my chest to hurt.
I went through that the past year. I had like 3 injuries in the year where I had like an MCL tear, and then I had a partial like Achilles, like a minor tear, and then I got, this is all like 2018. I got like a hernia at the end of the year, had to have surgery. So like it put me sort of like not out of commission where I couldn't train, but for a year I really couldn't train hard at all.
Right.
And I was going insane. Like I was like, it was this creeping sort of like this slow insanity where that's why last year I took like a trip like for like 6 weeks overseas, went to Romania, and like basically tried to drink myself to death. But like it was just all these months and months where like I couldn't physically, I'm just a physical being that way. I've always been that way, where there was nothing I could do that I could put myself into like a state of like pain, suffering, productivity, feeling like I was really like, moving forward. So it's just this physical inertia. I'm like, I'm just in a state of static. Like, and if you're not, like you have the mindset, like if you're either going forward or going back. So it was a whole year spent that way. And like, I was just getting like this crazy about it. And it was like that sort of tension every day where I was like, fuck, like I go to the gym and I can't do anything heavy. I can't fucking break my ass off in the deadlift. I can't make my low back hurt. I'm having to be super conscientious because, I don't want to tear this hernia again while it's healing. And it just fucking sucked. And then this year now I've been able to like get back to training with a vengeance. Right. I had like my first hard leg day like 2 weeks ago, and I hadn't had in a long time. And I couldn't walk for like 4 days. I was just like, oh fuck. I'm like, oh, it feels so good. It feels so fucking good. I'm like staggering upstairs. You're taking the stairs like one at a time. Like, God, wow. Yeah. Wow, I'm sore. But like, it's just like, why is this so satisfying? But it is.
Yeah, it is. And you know what's interesting about that though? I think over the years, that's a trick of getting older a little bit, is how do you maintain, because it's easy. Okay, like the first year, like, I was watching my friend, starting lifting for his like first year of lifting, right? And like everybody loves deadlift right away because their weights go up the fastest, and so it's like, ugh. And it's like, okay, you get up to your highest, but like my deadlift topped out 3 years ago, and I don't care to do the work to even get it back up there, like, because that's I don't need to do that all the time, like, and so you get to a point where like a really good friend of mine, I think probably topped out, pretty young because he was competitive in sports, and so they did a ton of training, and so it becomes tricky to maintain motivation, because when you're first like starting your first like 5 years or whatever, it's all PRs, and you're just trying to get that, more weight in the bar, more weight in the bar. And I'm like, I know, it's like, I know what the most I've ever benched is. I know what it would take for me to bench that again. I'm still capable. I'm not hurt in any way. I could do that, but I'm not chasing that number anymore. Because what does it get me? The number. Like I could do that. I already feel like that was a good number. I'm confident with that. I'm happy with that. Like same with my deadlift and my squat. I should probably go back to again someday. But I don't care. But then there's certain. I guess it just becomes the joy of doing it at some point, because there's no more chasing PRs at some point unless you want to do that extreme thing where you sacrifice your life to it, and then you're going to be injured in 5 years because I had to try and see if I could bench 405.
I think every bro kind of makes that choice of like, all right, like, do I want to see how strong I possibly be at like the sake of my own detriment, or to my own detriment, or you hit that also point where you have a certain amount of just enjoyment you take from the process, like, and you do it, and you're going to always do it, and you're never going to be at that peak level again. But like, can anyone be at their peak level forever? No. But I mean, that's kind of the point I've been at too, in the sense as well, where this past year I'm like, all right, like I turned 30, and there's certain lists I know I can still go up. Like I know my bench, like my incline bench especially, since I had two AC separations on my left shoulder twice from flat benching. I'm like, that's just not happening anymore. I was never good at it, and once your shoulder pops out twice, you're like, all right, fuck this. Like, it's already torn. I need to tear it more. But incline bench, I'm like, I know I could bench 3 plates on incline bench, like 4 reps. I know that's achievable in the next 5 years. Then there's other lifts, like, all right, deadlifts, like I pull 500 pounds. Could I pull 600 triple body weight? I'm like, yeah, probably. I'm like, do I want to walk around like not being able to walk around because my back is that fucking stiff? Probably not. Squat the same thing. I'm like, I had a bunch of injuries from both ballet and trying to squat heavy. I'm like, well, you already have osteocytes in your left hip. You already tore out a chunk of cartilage in it. Is it really worthwhile to you? I'm like, not really. So then it just becomes, the kind of, you fall into the thing of like, well, it's aesthetics now. I'm like, I just want to look really good.
Yeah.
I want the widest shoulders possible. But then you also, that's I guess the point of like, well, if I think for a lot of guys, if they do get bored with lifting, or like you've sort of hit all your goals that way, just go find something else to do. Like go box, or go kickbox.
Oh yeah.
Go rock climb. Like, just find a new physical challenge as a man. Just make yourself versatile.
Yeah. No, I definitely, that's the way to go too. And I mean, that's like, now I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and but I still have to lift. So I look a certain way. Cause someone actually said to me, like, I think one of my coaches was like, over time your shoulders will probably get smaller. I'm like,
No.
That will never happen. I'm like, that cannot be. That cannot be. So like, I'm like, no. So, because some people, they just give themselves, again, completely to the new sport, and then your body changes based on what you're doing. And I actually have a friend who he has a pretty cool philosophy. I'm sure chicks love hearing it. The idea of like, my body is just a product of what I'm doing at a given time, like the way that I'm training. And I'm like, that's a kind of a cool way to look at it. But yeah, you just find something else to do to challenge yourself. But I mean, like, that's my thing has been like, I like overhead presses. That's kind of my thing. That's the only lift I still track. And I'm like, I just got back up to a 225-pound overhead press the other day, and that's a good place to be for me. Like,
yeah.
I've done more, but like, if I'm always there, that's a good day. Like I'm that'll be a good way to stay in that zone. But anyway, so let's see what else. I know that you're speaking at the 22. Are you speaking at 22 or 21?
22. I guess both of them, but yeah, 22. I'm supposed to be the keynote actually for 22.
Oh yeah, all right.
Yeah. Which I mean, I will say readily. I told Anthony this, like, I don't know if, I mean, so 22 con, like, what is it? It's basically, I mean, the marketing is ridiculous, but it's a man splaying men of the century. It's a whole bunch of guys showing up to talk about, tell women how to be. But when he asked me to do it, I'm like, all right. I had to like really think it out. I'm like, I know this is gonna, on the level of like mainstream media perception, this is gonna go terrible.
Yeah.
Because we are gonna be run through the mud, the mud and the blood, and every kind of hit piece article, takedown, and and because I know how the media works. Because I've had takedowns before from going viral on Twitter and being contacted. It's gonna be the spin of whatever. You insert all the buzzwords. This is a neo-Nazi, men's rights, activist, alt-right, conservative, incel, mansplaining, misogyny, He-Man woman hater conference.
Yeah.
Like whatever. It's gonna be some shit like that. They're gonna try and dig up dirt on everybody. I'm like, all right, I know it's gonna happen. At the same time, I'm like this sort of like I'm like kind of looking at it somewhat philosophically. I'm like, we exist in this age where if you just keep going, nothing can really stop you online.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're anti-fragile in the sense that you're not dependent upon a mainstream job, you work for a corporation. I work for myself, obviously, so I can't be fired from anything. Right. I've already lost all my normie friends, which I have. Like, I don't have any normie friends. I have zero. There's no one I actually talk to that I'm close with. It's like a regular person with a regular job and regular views. Like, everyone I know is basically insane. Right. But in some regard or another. They're all pretty out there guys. Like, that's just how it is. So I'm like, well, I don't have anything to lose. And at the same time, I know that I'm going to get a shitload of coverage because of what I look like. I've gone viral before. It's going to be this big cognitive dissonance bomb when it gets press coverage. And it's like, okay, this is really attractive guy speaking at this that we can't say this guy's an incel. Like, so we have to somehow label him something. And I know when I actually do speak about most things, I actually come across as being mostly intelligent. So I'm like, this is actually an opportunity where I could sort of like insert this sort of like mimetic nuclear warhead into the social discourse. And so the speech is going to be recorded and it's going to be streamed live. Like,
right.
I could probably give this really awesome fucking speech on sort of the aesthetics and the functionality of beauty and masculinity and femininity and how that, operates together in the real world and over the course of history, and why, this era that we're in right now is such like a critical point and why that's gone wrong. So I could give this awesome speech that sounds really good that, even left-wing, media will have to be like, oh, geez, like, okay, he's not stupid, fuck. And I could just basically so it's one thing. So I give this great speech, and I could cause this massive amount of cognitive dissonance in people. And maybe I can actually change minds that way, which would be cool. And also at the same time, I could just hurt a bunch of fucking feelings where people are upset. And all it's going to do is just grow my following, grow my audience. And on the money perspective, I'm just going to make money from it fundamentally, since I'll have more traffic going my way. So I was like, all right, so, externally, by external perception, it looks like a lose-lose, but I think this actually will be a win-win-win. So I said, yes, I'll do the keynote.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Cause the thing about Anthony is that, like, I think he's a good guy.
Oh yeah,
I think he actually
100%.
wants to do something good. Because there's a lot of people, especially getting into the masculinity industry, or they're in this space or whatever, where we talk about this thing, you know, some of them are really just trying to make money, you know,
Yeah.
because there's a thing, I'm going to call it the organ grinder of Thumos, where people, you know, like there's a thing that you can do, and there's a perfect script for it. It's basically like, did you hear about the lies? Can you believe this injustice? We should go fight. And there's this thing that you can do with men and just get them all riled up about something, you know, and you can talk to men in a certain way to get them riled up.
Yes.
And I think that comes
100%.
with a certain responsibility to say something that isn't stupid, you know, and not send them in a direction where they're just going to ruin their lives. You know, I mean, because it's easy to do that. You can get dudes riled up and spin them up and send them in a direction that leads nowhere. You know, and it's. I think that, you know, you have to have a sense of responsibility when you're doing this kind of stuff. But that's one of the things I like about Anthony and the conferences that he puts on, is that I do think that you know, he might do something in a way that I wouldn't do it, but I think that he's a good guy, and I think he means well, and he wants to do something good.
No, he is. I mean, I've had disagreements with him about marketing stuff. I'm like I'd same thing. I wouldn't present myself that way. I wouldn't use that kind of marketing per se.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like when I talk to him, like he's very open minded, and like he's legitimately trying to find what he thinks are good role models for men and give them like a platform and, you know, sort of get the message out. And he's changed his mind about people. I always see like he's at like and he'll say so himself. The conference when he started 10 years ago, 11 years ago, it started out with like pickup artists, you know, like young guys trying to get laid kind of thing, which is a very easy sell. Are you a loser who can't get girls? Do you want a limited pussy? Do you want to drown in panties every day? You can. You know, it's like, I mean, the PA stuff, like, I never was in that scene, but like I'd look at him like, this is just so cringe. But like, obviously, it helped some guys. It did. Maybe some of them, I think, well, I mean, honestly, I think most of the PUA actual individuals are pretty dysfunctional. I've not seen anyone's life turn out well that I've, you know, picked up on.
Well, I think from that, it's the people who get deep into it, probably not. But
Probably
the
not.
people who surfed over the information and got some good pointers, because I
Yeah,
know some
pointers,
people. I know some.
yeah.
I know a dude who specifically who he's been in a relationship for like 5 or 6 years now, but it took reading Hartiste back at the beginning to get his head right.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, oh, okay, that's what I have to do. I'll just do more of that. And then, you know, but he didn't make his whole lifestyle going out and seeing how many girls he could pick up and whatever. You know, he's like, oh, that's how I need to interact with women. That's okay. It turned on a green light somewhere, you know, and it fixed it. And so I think there's a lot of guys who you don't hear from, who just they get some of that, and that's why this stuff is valuable. I mean, I always say like the thing about pickup artists is like, you know, we can say that it's you know, it's negative or whatever, but you know, there is a certain if that's your life, what's your life about? Your life is wrong. You know, but there every year there's new 18-year-olds who need to know how to get laid.
There are. I mean, I mean, that's the thing. I guess that was. Yeah, I was saying like with Anthony, like it started off with PUA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the point I make. Like that's very understandable. Like as a young guy, like yeah, you want to get laid. And when I was in my early 20s, like that probably would have been very useful information to me had I known that existed. Like yeah, fuck yeah, tell me what to say. And then like, you know, but like as I like to phrase it, like you hopefully want to end up with having a complete soul. So like, yeah, it's like go back to like those 4 areas, like the bro, you have Tao of Bro. Like you have yourself, you have women, you got other men, you got the world. All right, so we got the women thing down. Let's get the other stuff down. But then, you know, Anthony, as he got older, he's like, all right, he started thinking about different things with himself. Like, all right, like I'm having sex, being all the sex I want. There's other stuff, obviously, to being a man. I'm like, well, what are those things? So then he brought in different people, obviously, and yeah, that, you know, that's obviously more of what my message is, where I talk about more of the physical aspects of your relationship with yourself, you know, to other men, you know, the female stuff, not so much. Yeah, but the conference evolved. So I mean, you know, the 22 con, I don't know how that will go per se, you know, in the sense of like we're going to have a huge massive crowd, and well, you know, we're all going to be, you know, super successful afterwards. You know, no, from a mainstream aspect, no, but like I said, like on a big like global brain aspect, I think it actually will be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Obviously, there's good, you know, a bunch of media happening right now, and I've seen some of the stuff that he's posted and so forth, and yeah, I mean, it seems like it's being handled pretty well for given the thing. I do think it's funny. The incel thing is really funny, like because they're just reading some of the comments on his profile has been, you know, like the amount of screeching unattractive women who think that all men who are associated with anything like this, or might even think that maybe there's something amiss in the world of gender, that they're all incels, like that they're all, every single one of them is an angry incel, and it's obviously not the case. And
obviously not, but I mean, you know, the thing, I've blown up on Twitter so many times now, and I've got, what was the one when I had the beautiful woman tweets last year, which like went mega viral. I got like a gazillion, 10 million, 50 million impressions from that, and
right,
I had all these media outlets calling me and like, who's this guy? The thing that was funny, like, you know, so women were replying to the thread. I had like 15,000 comments on a tweet. Like, I mean, just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it wasn't like you're an incel, because they looked at the picture like, okay, well, you're an incel. It'd be like, well, you must have a micro dick, or I bet you don't have a woman. Women don't like you, or some of it was like, oh, you must never have sex ever. I'm like, yeah, you look at like the female logic. I'm like, if you're going to insult men for not having sex with women, then that carries an implicit implication that successful men have sex with lots of women. So that must mean that like cool, good guy men have lots of sex, right? But then you turn around on them, of course, and the female brain just blows up, and it's like they can't even, like, you know, when they're faced with their own fucking hypocrisy, it just is a meltdown.
Yeah.
You know, so it just devolves into, but you're a fucking misogynist, bullshit, and it goes on and on. But I always found that hysterical. And see, every insult that women throw, all the insults that women will always throw at men, again, they're all like Chad insults. Like, well, if you were a guy who was banging tons of pussy and were tall and hot, and I wanted to fuck, like, well, then you'd be basically a happy guy, right? You wouldn't be an incel online. You'd be what? Having sex with lots of women?
Yeah.
Really attractive and good looking? You know, like women always resort to two things with men. Well, you're ugly, women don't like you, and you don't have sex. So if I'm handsome and women like me and have lots of sex, I guess I'm a good guy, right? It's like fucking C4s. Detonate.
Oh wow, yeah. So I just wanted, just my own personal actual research. I wanted to see what the you mentioned, you know, the 4 areas of bro.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that? Just did you say you pulled them from a Greek philosopher, or no?
I didn't pull them directly from Stoicism, but the thing, one of the big questions with, you know, sort of like, you know, like Platonic philosophy, and then, you know, like Stoicism is like, what is like the search for a good life? Like,
Sure.
that's a very real question. What does it mean to have a good life that's satisfying to you as a man?
Yeah.
And, you know, most of Stoicism, and I mean, going to Stoic philosophy, I wouldn't call myself a Stoic. Like, if I was to identify with a school, I'd say like more like Epicureanism.
Okay.
Where like the Stoicism has a certain kind of solemnness to it.
Yeah.
And a certain level of you know, how would I say this, sort of like transience of like, you know, we will live, we will die, you know, is anything permanent? We shall not know, but here's how within your mortal life you can hopefully do good. And like, it sounds like, you know, it's very sort of like old, you know, elderly, gentlemanly sort of advice from a wise elder. I'm like, that's true. You know, that is true.
Right.
But it's not the entirety of truth. The entirety of truth is also that you can have a wild, insane life, and you actually can be remembered. And this goes sort of like you go ahead, history is sort of like the Byronic kind of hero. I'm like, you know, or even like, you know, this, you know, story of Icarus. I'm like, there is absolutely an element of goodness in reality, and maybe not moral goodness, but certainly like lively, you know, sort of that joyous goodness where you live for insanity. You're kind of insane, and you can't be tamed that way as a man. You sort of throw yourself against the world. And most of the men throughout history that we do actually remember for being great men, they are men that way. It's sort of like the Genghis Khan example. Like, what's the most impossible thing you could ever do? I'm going to conquer the globe.
Right.
Yeah, you say that logically, you're like, I don't think that's a reasonable thing to want. Like, why not have a good life where you have you have your urt and your land and your horses and your wife and some sons. No, I want to conquer the whole globe and have 100 wives and 1,000 sons and have my name be known from sea to sea.
Right.
Like, okay, like that's not, there's nothing stoic about that.
No,
there's nothing stoic. I mean, that will still require the elements of discipline and sacrifice, and certainly having that mental calmness that you must have as a man of, okay, I'm going to subject myself to this incredible ordeal and all these trials, and I'm going to have to maintain placidity. But that's not a stoic ambition at all. So
yeah, that's what I mean. I feel that way about stoicism too. I mean, I feel like that's not in there. I feel like there's a passion, like maybe in the way that Nietzsche says of life denying. You know, like there's a life denying thing in it. Like the idea that you should, go out and do something crazy and have some kind of passion and you live, because you only get to live once. Live hard. You know. Moderation's good, but like we were just talking about it in terms of fitness, right? I mean, like, like we know this is the level. It does all go back to bro, really. I mean, I know what overhead press I'm comfortable with, and that's and that's a good moderation. That's a moderate level for me, and I don't need to go beyond that. Moderation, you find it, where you want it, but in something in life, you have to push really hard. I mean,
that's. I mean, I think like the way, I mean, as I'm sort of like mentally processing as you're saying this, but the way I conceptualize bro philosophy is it's a sort of like mediation between primalism, which, primal environment of like, what do you need to be as a man? You need to be strong, you need to fight, you need to kill, you need to fuck, you need food, man hunt, man fish, man kill, man rape woman. It's like that's primal philosophy.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yes, we are biological creatures. We are animals, but man exists on this border of being very animalistic, then having the capacity to be very much of the mind and be very intellectual. Like, it's always going to be this spectrum.
Right.
So I bro philosophy, as you're conceptualized, it's sort of like this intermediary zone where, yes, we are primal in this way and we can live that way, but we also we have these aspects to ourselves that are higher, more godlier aspects. So and the way I laid it out, that's what I took from the Stoicism. Like, well, what is a good life? I'm like, well, what do you need to have a good life? Well, you need to, I would say, be good, or have a sense of goodness in 4 areas: your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your fellow men, your brothers, comrades, however you want to say that, that fraternal relationship. You have your relationship with the opposite sex, and then you have your relationship sort of, encompassing everything over like the world at large. And if you can have those 4 things be relatively congruent with each other, or let's say they are to your satisfaction, you probably will have a good life.
Yeah.
If you're incongruent, or just if you have some area that's very much lacking, you feel, all right, well then that's a very easy identification. It gives you a very easy paradigm of like, well, what do I need to work on? Like, okay, am I having sex and laid? Yes. All right. Yeah, but do I still feel unhappy with myself and there's something missing? All right, well then that's risk yourself. Right. Or maybe these 2 areas are good. Like, what? Like, I don't have, friends. I feel like I'm kind of like alone. All right, well then I need to, relationship with other men. Okay. Maybe you have those 3 things. Be like, what? Like, I mean, this is kind of this is my personal issue the past sort of year or so. I'm like, okay, at this point, like, I have a really awesome girlfriend. Like, girlfriend's beautiful. Like, like that's great. I've got awesome friends. Like my relationship with myself, like I feel pretty happy, but I feel like I could be doing more in the world. Like, I should be more ambitious. So then, like, that's been my area of focus. Like, okay, like, what does that mean? You know what? Actually, I want to grow my brand. I want to, sort of put out like, these different kinds of content. I want to reach more people. I want to, let's say, spread the message that, whatever it is I'm promoting, and be more of a, resource for people that way, and hopefully, help out other bros, help out other guys. And it is, I take that very seriously in every day. Like, I get messages from, younger guys, even older guys, and they got fit and they started lifting. And like, I always call it like the Chad transformation. Like, look at this Chad now. Like, the guy looks great. He's got abs. I'm like, that's awesome. Like that, but that guy changed his life. He changed his life. He's on an upward trajectory. Like, fuck yes. Like that feels good. That's like, I have immense gratitude about that. I'm always grateful to see that. I'm like, all right, I'm doing something good with the world. Like, awesome. So, but those are the 4 areas, and if you apply that paradigm, like, it's very secular. It's not like I'm sure it's not like a religious element to it. I'm like, you can apply it to really to any kind of individual. and then it just gives you a very easy directive as to what you should do with yourself, or what, what area you need to explore, or maybe, maybe everything's great, like maybe it's all good, and you're at that stage of life where you actually have something to pass on and then like teach to, like, to younger men. And I think most older guys eventually kind of hit that point, whether they have sons or not. I think like sort of the end stage of being a man is just being paternal, where
Yeah.
you're able to, you like, your life is good, like you have your shit together. So like, what now? You know what? I actually do want to like sort of, raise a younger generation, or just
Mhm.
teach men younger than myself. I want my
Yeah.
knowledge to, not just die with me. So then you get into that stage of life where, like, you just start trying to reach out. You start, whether it's a following, whether you have sons or you have kids, or
Mhm.
you put yourself into a position where now you can be an elder that way. Um, and that's, yeah. And then at the end of your life, hopefully, you can be proud of what you did.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's always. I've been an atheist since I was a really, you know, I mean, I wouldn't describe myself that way now, but I was always an atheist as a young kid, and so to me,
Same. Yeah.
legacy was everything. Like what do you leave behind is everything at that point, because it's not about afterlife or whatever. It's just what you actually do while you're on the planet, and it's cool to hear you have that experience as well with people contacting you. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have that for years, where guys contact me like, oh, you changed my life, by the way, or like, oh, you know that's a pretty cool thing to have happen, right?
It is. It is.
And it's good that you can help people and send them in the right direction, and yeah, help them have their Chad transformation, and that's I like that a lot. And actually, that's a good place to wrap up, because we started talking about Chad, and now we've come full Chad.
We come full circle to Chad.
Full circle to Chad. So, all right, man. Cool. I'm going to call that a wrap. But is there anything else you want to promote or put out there?
No, I mean, right now, like, if anyone wants to find my stuff, AJ_Cortes, my website, cortes.site. That's it. The one thing I do publish that, like, actually is like where most of my information is. I have like a almost daily newsletter where I write a lot. Like, I'm a writer that way. So I write that every day, and it's not a fitness newsletter. The subjects range from masculinity to relationships to this kind of stuff, just bro talk. If anyone wants to, like, find the content, that's where most of it is, and that's where I keep everybody up to date as well. So I mean, that'd be that. Yeah, that'd be it.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Good talk with it.
Thank you for watching or listening to Start the World. My personal mission is to help men become the best versions of themselves, and to face some of the challenges that we all face in the 21st century. It's getting weird out there. So I'm having conversations with other men who are helping men face and overcome these challenges. And that's why I'm so excited about the new season of Start the World. I have a lot of people scheduled. I'm going to talk to psychologists, therapists, martial artists, coaches, trainers, artists, spiritual leaders, and maybe just some fun weirdos. We're going to try to put out an episode every week for a while, maybe 30 to 50 episodes this year. I'm going to get some lavalier mics, maybe do some in-person interviews, and maybe even some workout content. I think a lot of people would actually like that. If you want to support this podcast or just my work generally, I'm writing a book this year that I'm also pretty excited about. Hopefully it'll come out in the fall. I'm using Subscribestar. Subscribestar is an anti-censorship platform. You can sign up using a link in the show notes or on YouTube, or just by typing in subscribestar.com/Jack Donovan, and it should take you there. So thanks again for watching or listening to Start the World. This is Jack Donovan. Stay solar.